I'm not trying to diminish the attitudes. I'm saying that in some sense, behavior is based on what you can and cannot get away with. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Reverend Jackson. I'm glad to hear that you feel that this is a moment, historic moment, a God-given moment as well, a moment of grace, because the unification is there more than ever, as you pointed out.
In today's world, there are no more foreigners in this world. If you go on the plane in New York and go into Senegal, I got on the plane going to LA, we get at the same time. Science is dwarf distance technology, learning to live together. And so I'm excited about it. I said Rainbow Coalition. We're winning this race. The problem, but we're winning. Yeah. God can use the pain and bring about power. This boy dying, you know, there's a term in New Testament called pneuma, means breath. God breathed breath in us. He always breath, always breath. When knee on Floyd's neck, he was breathing God out of him. And his last breath breathed life to the whole human race. I mean, no human history. It says many people emotion, as Floyd said. His breath went to the human race. What an investment. My.
The beautiful moments to me was seeing his daughter, seeing my daddy change the world. You know, that's out of such massive injustice. Only greatness, only good must come, and it looks like we're moving in that direction. Thank you for your life of service. Thank you for what you shared, and we'll come back with the questions at the end with everyone together. Thank you, Reverend. Barbara, we've been through some tears together over the years. Would you share with us what brought you to Tukey originally, and how his life is an example of what's really possible, how humans can change, white, black, brown, you know, Christian, Jew, Muslim, it doesn't matter what, because to me, that's what his life is a metaphor for. And his life passing the way it did, I want to make sure he's honored this time and brought up as such a beautiful example, Barbara.
I met Stan about 27 years ago. And if you had seen me then, I was I could laugh about it now, but I was a pearl button wearing, white pearls around my neck, straight hair, middle class sister who thought I knew what it meant. Well, I did know, obviously, what it meant to be Black, but thought I was more down, let's put it that way. Thought I was way more down than in fact I was. So I go into the prison because I'm at this point, I'm sort of changing careers from being an economist and a public policy analyst in Washington, D.C., to becoming a writer. I get a writing assignment from Essence magazine to do something on Black youth gangs. I go into Watts in the Hood. It was just at the time when the Crips and the Bloods gang truce was starting. And I'm getting on, they say, well, you know, if you want to know something about the Crips, you really need to talk to Stanley Tukey Williams, but he's on San Quentin's death row and he hates journalists. So that required 6 months of writing him. Finally, he lets me in. At that point, he had been incarcerated for about 13 years. And what he said to me was, well, I'm not who I was when I arrived here. What I want to do now is write books for kids, not adults, but for kids, to get them not to follow in my footsteps. And ultimately he asked, could I help him do that and get that done? Which I ultimately did do.
Didn't you have judgments about him before that? I remember him telling me that his first meeting with you didn't go so well.
No, it did not go well because number one, I walked in as this middle-class person who had all kinds of judgments that I was projecting onto him. Yeah. And he had some judgments he was projecting onto me as well. And sure. his projections, he was concerned as to whether I was maybe working for the LAPD undercover or what. So he was interrogating me. And this went on, and the prison was only giving me 2 hours. And we're like an hour and 15 minutes into my 2 hours. So I forgot where I was and who I was with and lost my patience and said, look, you didn't get to be who and what you are without having good instincts. Check your gut. And if it still feels to you like I'm an undercover agent or something, let's shake hands and I'm out of here. Anyway, the long and the short of it is, everything was quiet in the room, and there were guards there with guns, and nobody breathed. No, there was no breathing for maybe about 20 seconds, which was a long 20 seconds. And he finally threw his head back and laughed. And he said, "Come on, go ahead. What are your questions?" And then, 13 and a half years later, I mean, my whole experience with working with him and working with the folks that I met, the gang truce leaders, the Crips and the Bloods, it completely changed my life.
I was a woman with him for 13 years, coming in out of prison, helping get those books out, trying to help him in every way, including help stay the execution. But we had some new information that was from his former cellmate, and we were trying to get the governor to consider that in those last moments. Yeah. And the governor actually called me and said, "I can't tell you what I'm going to do, but I remember he said, all I can tell you," he told me and my friend, we had a home in Sun Valley where he was, "You're going to want me to come to your jacuzzi and eat your ice cream. It's all going to be great." So we were stunned when we heard, obviously, because we thought it was going to be okay. But I remember I went on to the last ditch effort on Larry King, and you were there, and you said, "I want to go to the execution." And Tukey told me directly, he said, "I don't want her being there." And you said, "You're not going to let only hate be there in that room when he goes to pass." And you were the one face for him. So yeah. From that, share with him how it happened. And by the way, the guards loved him at the end. He was such a man of peace. They all had tears as he was going in. I mean, I got to see it directly when I went to go visit, and they loved him. He went from master of the universe through, to pain and violence. And 6 years in isolation, and then had this transformation to everybody loved him. But from that place, I want you to know where Barbara was. She's the one face in the room sending love to this man. And please share what happened.
Well, it was the worst thing. Well, first of all, he did not want me there.
That's right.
And I didn't want to be there for purposes. I didn't want to see him die, but I knew that shouldn't be the last thing, the level of hatred, the vitriol that was going to be projected onto him, my belief was. And in fact, when I saw it, it was way worse than what my worst fantasies could be. But I thought, that's not how he should die. It's just simply not how he should die. And that I told him, just look at me. Look at me. Don't look at them. Just look at me. That's what you see. Let that be what you see. He had told me about 3 days before he was executed. I was pretty distraught. And he said, "You need to pull yourself together." He says, "You're out in the world representing me." And he says, "And I won't let these people